Developing story today on College Football Live. Ohio State defensive end Nick Bosa has withdrawn from school to focus on preparation for the NFL. The junior All-American has been rehabbing since surgery on September 20th. Here's Urban Meyer earlier today.
It was very emotional. We love Nick. He's the Bosa family has been obviously awesome for Ohio State in the program. And Nick is a first-class guy. He's very strong in his faith. He's very strong and academically, and so it was very emotional.
Were you surprised at all that was ultimately his choice to not come back?
I was hopeful, like all of us were, but I can't say I was that surprised.
Chris Cotter on the show today with me, David Pollack, along with Todd McShay, and he's been rehabbing from that abdominal injury that he suffered on September 15th, and you heard from Coach Meyer saying he was hopeful that he'd be able to come back. David, were you surprised about the announcement today?
Yeah, I was very surprised. And Todd, I know we evaluate all these guys and we look at them, and I'll tell you one thing about Nick Bosa when I watch him play. Dude loves the game. He plays hard. He plays with a lot of effort. You can tell he cares about the game of football. Not everybody is like that, okay? That is something that is unique to college football. There are very few people that you can tell love it and eat it and breathe it, and he's one of those cats. So I thought if there was a chance he could come back, he might. But, you know, you never know the extent of what's going on with the injury. You never know where he's at, and he's making a decision that's best for him. And I don't know all the details about how his abdominal area is.
Yeah, when Greg Shapiro texted me, our producer, and said, you know, this is the case, this is what just happened, I was surprised originally. And I think it's because of that. It's because he loves the game. He plays it just like his brother plays it, just all out, 100%, wants to compete, wants to every single down dominate. But then you take a kind of a step back and you just evaluate it from any player's standpoint. It's not good for college football. And I'm not, you know, I don't love this, but I understand. You're looking at a $30 million decision. Guaranteed money. If he's the first overall pick, it's nearly $30 million. He's played 30 games, and so there's plenty of tape out there. So I understand him wanting to make sure he's right in order to go on and get paid at the next level instead of playing without getting paid at this point. So I understand from his standpoint, but to answer your question, yeah, I was surprised because it was Bosa.
Pollack, take yourself back to your days in Athens at Georgia. You're an All-American defensive end. You've got a big payday looming at the NFL level. What if this happened to you? What if you got an abdominal injury and you were thinking about coming back or thinking about going to the next level? What do?
Not everybody's created the same. So you're asking me what I would do. I was a guy that was projected just as high as a junior as I was as a senior, and I came back for my senior year to win a championship. I think back in the day, and that's when you know you're getting a little bit older, but back in the day, you were big about your team, man. And I was about trying to win a championship. And so I would have come back and I would have fought and I would have done everything I could to try to help Georgia, no matter what timetable that was. That doesn't make Bosa's decision right or wrong. I'm just telling you what I would have done.
All right, let's bring in Mel Kiper Jr.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, he was a try-hard guy. He was, worked hard, not a great athlete. It still grinds him to this day.
Yeah, it does. McShay still had to bring that up. He had to get that one in before we brought in Mel.
Once in a while, right?
Mel may echo those exact sentiments, right? Mel, you remember this back when Pollack was coming out.
I'm not getting involved in this conversation. I'll tell you that.
Well,
Mel,
think about
out there against me, man.
Think about his, Bosa's, the way that he's viewed for the next level. I mean, the last time NFL player personnel folks saw him on the field, he was being helped off of it. So the fact that he's decided now not to play anymore at Ohio State, not to play anymore at the college level, and the last image we have of him as being hurt, does that hurt him at all in terms of the evaluation at the next level?
Not at all, Chris. And guys, I would have been surprised if he did come back. Keep in mind, as a senior in high school, he had a knee injury, an ACL. Now this injury, now the surgery September 20th. He comes back, say, for Michigan or the playoff games and gets hurt. Then all of a sudden it puts there a risk as to whether he would be ready for the season. Then you look at Jalen Smith, hurt ironically against Ohio State, Notre Dame linebacker in their bowl. We were talking about third round. He ended up going second round rather than the top 5, top 10 overall. I think it was a automatic, common sense business decision. I think if I'm the Bosa family, I'm saying the next injury my son or my brother has, or I have, if I'm Nick Bosa, the next injury I have, and hopefully I don't have any, but if I do have another injury, it's going to be as a professional and as a multi-millionaire, not as an amateur college football player.
Yeah, and I think, Mel, you look at it, if you're a general manager, and if you're being honest, I don't think anyone would go on record saying it, but if you're being honest, you probably would rather know that he shut it down at this point than come back and compete. Now, people will say, what does it say about his competitive temperament? Does he love the game? We know he loves the game. Like David was just saying, watch the tape. This guy plays as hard as anyone in the country, but what you have to look at and say is, I would rather him shut it down than go play 2-3 more games and potentially, have risk of another injury or something happening. So I think he's the first overall prospect. I'm not saying he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. It depends on the team. Could be the Buffalo Bills. Who knows? But when it's all said and done, I still think he's easily a top 5 pick, and it won't surprise me at all, given this quarterback class, if he's the number 1 overall pick in this class.
Well, I think it's interesting because I think fans' immediate reaction, or people that aren't around the game, they go, wait, he's not competing. That should hurt him at the next level. Here's what scouts care about. Can you help my team win? It's not like this kid has a character issue. It's not like he's lazy. It's not like he doesn't play hard. It's not like he doesn't have all the talent in the world to back it up. It's an injury. So, yeah, they don't give a crap. This kid is going to be a top 5 pick. He's going to be a monster at the next level as well, so there is zero impact on his draft stock.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette didn't play in the bowl game. Christian McCaffrey didn't play in the bowl game. Did it hurt their stock? There was talk about Jadeveon Clowney. Why play when you're already guaranteed this? Remember that hit he took early on, that block against Clowney, because they shut it down then. So to me, no, it would have been a bad business decision to come back and play. This was a tremendous business decision to shut it down. Will have no impact. He could be the number 1 pick. You want the inside guy, you take Ed Oliver Houston. Want the outside guy, you take Bosa.
Mel,
These are like a half a percent guys.
Yeah, Mel said business decision. You're talking NFL. If you're a kid and you're fighting for your team, and the team is something that's more important than your future, and listen, all of us worry about ourselves and all of us worry about our future, but I can tell you, I think there's a lot of people too that also fight with everything they have in them for their team, and there's some people that make business decisions. There is a difference between fighting for your team and making a business decision.
And there's also, I was going to say, this is about 0.5% of the college football players that maybe are in this position to make this kind of decision. When you start to mention those names, we're talking about top 5, top 10 picks, guaranteed 20 to 25, maybe $29 million in money. And, everybody else, you got to come back and play. And if you're lucky enough, fortunate enough to be in that 0.5%, then, I understand you making a business decision like this.
Mel, thanks for joining us today. Good to have you for a couple of minutes.
You got it, guys.
Good effort. Good energy, Mel.
Todd.
Work hard guy. Try hard.
David, while we're talking about Ohio State, though, I think it certainly is worth talking about this team. I mean, look at them over the last couple of weeks defensively against Indiana, against Minnesota. They haven't looked great on that side of the football. Yeah, and then we were thinking, hey, at least they're going to get Bosa back soon. Doesn't look that way. They're not going to get him back at all, so how does that affect their chances moving forward?
I thought they were a team that could, one of the couple teams that you would pick to say they could win a national title. I don't think they can win a national title without Nick Bosa. I think when you look at their defense, they're big play prone. I think their second level, their linebackers continue to make mistakes that hurt the defensive line. But I think the depth of listen, they still got dudes. I mean, Todd can still go down the list of guys that are on this defense that are going to be high draft picks at the defensive tackle, defensive end. Chase is still there, who's a freak show out wide that's going to be an animal for a long time to come. But the depth of the D-line, the best player in the country, losing his opportunity to be in there, I don't think they can win a national title now.
I tend to agree with you. And it's been interesting watching Ohio State the last few weeks. What's going on early on? Why are we so slow? And yes, you make adjustments and things are fine defensively. Things were good offensively early on. And they continue to move the football. But really right now, if you look at it, I think Haskins and the passing game are the only real, true championship level aspects of this football team. And that's scary when you're talking about, inconsistent special teams, inconsistent defense, inconsistent to, below average run game. Something seems to be missing here, even though they've got the record. I see it 7-0, 4-0, got it. But things are going to get really dicey. Maybe not at Purdue, but you got Michigan State on the road. You got Michigan at home at the end of the season. We'll see how it plays out. But this does not feel like a team that's playing at that, top 2 or 3 in the country type level.
Yeah, maybe at Purdue, though. I mean, you think about what David Blau's been able to do. They can put points on the board. I know it's not, like playing against Michigan or playing at Happy Valley, but Ross-Ade Stadium is not as easy a place to go in and win as it used to be. All right, when we come back on College Football Live, winners and losers from the weekend. Chaos in the SEC. That's winners for all of us college football fans. And the battle for the Paul Bunyan Trophy this weekend all of a sudden takes on a whole new meaning. It's coming up on College Football Live.
College Football Live.
West Virginia in dominating fashion.
Worst offensive performance I've seen in my 30 years of coaching.
Dumps it out, intercepted, picked off by Laverne Hill, pick six Wolverines. Hill has stuck the dagger in Wisconsin.
We're going for it. We're going for it as hard as we can today. We're throwing out the kitchen sink, man. We're going to everything we had, and we did it. Go Tigers.
Weekend full of winners and losers in college football. Coach O and LSU, a big-time winner. The chaos in the SEC now with everybody beating each other up other than Alabama, David, I think makes it a winner for all of us college football fans. Can LSU now, are they the team in the SEC that can beat Alabama? Is that possible?
Well, they're the big winners of the weekend. And here's what I see LSU. LSU reminds me of the old Bama teams. They remind me of the Bama teams that won championship years ago. It is phenomenal defense, run the football, and enough quarterback play to win and to keep you honest. That's what LSU looks like to me. Can they beat everybody else? Probably not. I mean, and I say that because Bama's going to be on the schedule, and that's going to be tough because you got to outscore Bama and you got to put a lot of points up on the board. But LSU has shut everybody up this season and just continue to win big games. Kudos to LSU, man.
Yeah, Dave, I think this team matches up with Alabama as well as anyone in the country. Now, does it match up well enough? Probably not. But A, you get them at home, and B, more importantly, I think it's the only team in the country, when you talk about their secondary, starting with Greedy Williams at the cornerback spot, that can actually play press coverage. And if you watch, I know you've watched the tape. The free access off the line of scrimmage, the 7 yards before you even have to deal with the cornerback. It's stealing. And then
it's bad.
If you try to jump a route and how quick and fast these guys are, if you look at the receivers and I just had Alabama, if you look at, Jerry Jeudy all the way down, they have 4 or 5 guys that can beat anyone in man-to-man coverage if you play off. If you play physical and challenge them, I think you got a chance. I watched them against Ole Miss. I had that game. And these corners for LSU actually got in the face of the star wide receivers, and were physical with them and kind of took them out of their game. I think that's the biggest reason, in my opinion, that they have a shot, because that's what separates Alabama is the passing attack from every other team in the country right now.
That game is November
Cotter,
3rd,
Cotter, make sure you get your FPI mention right here, because apparently LSU has a 3% chance. So let's just get our numbers in there while
I'm
we're
going to save
it, okay?
that for later with Todd in the Pac-12. That's coming up later. But that game, by the way, November 3rd in Baton Rouge, LSU and Alabama. You think about the 4 quarterbacks that were in the playoff game last year, right? Baker's doing his thing with the Browns right now. You have Bryant transferring. Hurts is on the bench. That leaves us with Jake Fromm as the only one starting of those 4 quarterbacks that played in the playoff. Todd, how long is he going to start for, though? Because there's a lot of chatter going on right now in Georgia that maybe it's time to see Justin Fields.
This is a tough call. This really is. I think Fromm's coming off his worst game ever, but I think you also have to take a step back from the situation and see, what do we have? I don't know what we have in Fields. If they in practice see a quarterback who's getting in and out of, in and out of the huddle, in and out of his pre-snap reads and knows what he's doing, then great. I've seen him even just warming up in a game, and I was like, whoa, this guy's unbelievable. But right, it looks different. So the timing, I think, is relatively good because you have a week to prepare and get him ready. But you have to be there every day in practice to really know what you have in Fields. And mentally, is he ready to handle this? I think if he is, then yes, this is the time to give him a shot.
Jake Fromm is a great quarterback. Jake Fromm reminds me of David Green. Jake Fromm is a guy that is not going to turn the football over. He's not going to beat you. Can he make the necessary plays? In the LSU game, he showed you he couldn't. In the Rose Bowl last year, he showed you he could. In the national championship, he showed you he could.
Right.
This team offensively is not as good as it was a year ago. If you put Fromm and Fields into this lineup right now, your running game goes from good to great just by doing zone read. You get more space. The offensive line makes it easier. But you're right, Todd. How many times can he get you in and out of good plays? Because that's the biggest thing. Can you come up to the line? easy decision. I don't envy Kirby Smart in Georgia because I think it's going to be tough. But I think you're going to see more Justin Fields. But here's the thing that every Georgia fan screamed on Saturday: if you're going to put Justin Fields in the game, don't run Wildcat with him. Don't just run the football. Run the zone read. Let him throw the football. Let him be a quarterback because this guy's not just a Wildcat. I can promise you that.
Yeah, well, you know, when you look back on Saturday, another winner on the day was America's oven mitt. I'm talking about Michigan. Both Michigan State and Michigan setting up a great rivalry game this weekend in East Lansing. But, David, is Michigan now, maybe even more so than they were early on in the year, a real player in your mind as far as a potential playoff berth is concerned?
Yeah, they're in the mix. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams in the mix. I mean, if you listen to all of our analysts, for God's sakes, everybody's going to run the table and go undefeated, which is a bunch of bull because it never happens. But we want to put 4 undefeated teams in the college football playoff. They're a one-loss team that are going to have a lot of gripe at the end of the season. Early in the season, Shea Patterson was just breaking in. You know, at Notre Dame, a tough test. Run the table, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, they're in. There's no doubt about it. If they run the table, they're in the college football playoff. They look better. They look more complete offensively. Is it the competition they've been playing? I think we're going to find out down the stretch and see how much better they really are.
How much better is the competition going to be than Wisconsin? You know, I mean, that's my question. Maybe a little bit better. Well, obviously, in Columbus it will be.
I don't think that's a battered Wisconsin team. That wasn't a good Wisconsin team regardless.
Yeah.
But
the defense is beat up. But I will say this, having covered them, Michigan last week, Shea Patterson's starting to figure things out. He's starting to gain some confidence. Karan Higdon has had, I think, 84 carries the last few weeks. They've got Nico Collins, who you just saw there, number 4, who's starting to emerge as a playmaker. And the defense, there's been no question about this defense from the start. Don Brown's group is among the top 3 or 4 in terms of defensive units in the entire country.
All right, I got another winner for you. Oregon. The Pac-12 is not done yet. Hey, McShay, have you bought back some of that stock you sold last week when you were done with the Pac-12?
Well, I'm not great at the stock market, but you can't sell low and buy high. So I can't. But if we're getting off the stock market, I think Oregon's got a shot. Herbert's making. How about that throw rolling to his left? I mean,
that was pretty sick.
Big time play. It was a close game, playing at home. I think at the end of the day, if Notre Dame gets in, then we'll see the Pac-12 and the Big 12 both out of this thing when it's all said and done. Go ahead, Pollock.
Look at that throw. Look at that throw. Look at that throw. Square up the shoulders and throw a seed to the sideline. Listen, Oregon, to me, they have a mulligan. If we're going to look at mulligans, they won the Stanford game.
Yep.
They gave it away. They gagged it away. I think it's easy to sit there and go, if I'm a playoff committee and I'm deciding between 2 teams, I can go, they should have won the ball game. They look really good. Listen, Oregon is more physical than they've been in years. The offensive line got banged up in this ball game, and they still ran the football. I think they're a dangerous team coming down the stretch. If they can continue to win, they'll have a really good shot to be in. But they're still going to have to take care of business, and they're still going to have to play good, and they're going to have to look good down the stretch to do it.
All right, you ready for this one, Pollock? Our ESPN playoff predictor has 0.1% chance for Oregon to make the playoff. 0.1.
That shows you how bad that thing is. That's just stupid. That makes no sense. If they run the table and they're a one-loss team and everybody else is losing, that's just ludicrous.
I can't even get you onto the next topic. The next topic is a loser.
That's as bad as Dan Mullen and Derek Mason having to go at it on Saturday. Did you see that? I can't say what he said. I can't say what he said. I'm not surprised, by the way, that Grantham started it. That's not shocking at all, the way he pops off. But Derek Mason coming way on that other side of the field, you got to be careful with that. You can't go all the way over there and run your mouth. That's tough, man. Come on now.
I was working out and couldn't hear the volume, and I knew exactly what was said. I mean, those two were ready to get after it.
Hey, who you got in the cage match? Derek Mason or Dan Mullen?
Yeah, that's Mason. Yeah, no question about it. But you had to throw in that you were working out and you had the volume down.
He's tiny, Derek Mason, but I think he'd wear him out.
Yeah, I do
All
too.
right, this week's Capital One fan vote after Georgia's loss. Who's your pick for number 2 in the country, Todd? LSU, Clemson, Notre Dame, or Ohio State? Those are your 4 choices. Who's number 2 now?
With Bosa gone, I'm going Clemson. Make it nice and short. I know we're running out of town.
All right, if you want to get involved, go to twitter.com/SportsCenter to check out this week's Capital One fan vote. All right, no rest for the best. Should Nick Saban rest Tua with LSU coming up in 3 weeks and a bye? Throw it in there as well. We'll talk about that. This week's Ultimate Performance presented by BMW. Tua Tagovailoa threw 3 touchdown passes, 0 picks. What else is new? Tide rolled Mizzou 39-10. He did, though, re-aggravate that right knee injury that he suffered against Arkansas. So that's a little bit of a concern as we head here into the week preparing for their next game. Northwest Mutual planning for success. Nick Saban on planning for Tennessee this week with a banged-up quarterback.
Tua hasn't missed a day of practice. He could have gone back in the game, like I said. He's probably better this week than he was last week. So we just see how he does in practice and continue to evaluate. And as long as the medical staff clears him, we'll keep working him to try to get him ready to play in a game.
Pollock, you rest him this week with a bye week before LSU or not?
Why is he even practicing is my question. Nick is notorious for this, by the way. You earn your practice time, you earn your game time, but Tua, I'd sit him out this week, I'd sit him out the bye week, and I'd make sure he's healthy.
Todd has no
He
time.
wasn't right
Sorry.
the entire night. Sit him.